I know Pastor Scott sometimes goes up into the pulpit, but I'm afraid of heights. Grace, mercy, and peace to you from Creator God, Redeemer Christ, and the Spirit of wisdom and comfort. When I was working in my seminary internship, I had the great fortune and immense blessing of working with an amazing mentor pastor. Many of you may know Mike Keyes. Mike had many, many years of pastoral experience behind him, and he had recently returned to Oregon after serving as the bishop of the Alaska Synod. I was not his first intern, and this was certainly not his first trip around the block with an eager and mostly confused seminary student. One day, as I struggled to make sense of some difficult biblical passage that was the basis of Sunday's message that I was to deliver, Mike told me reassuringly that as I got more comfortable in the pulpit and in the role of preacher, that I might find, like he did, that I will have basically 5 or 6 sermon templates and themes within me, and most of my sermons would take shape around one of those templates. And the more experience I gain in the pulpits to which I have been faithfully called, the more I think he was right. Mostly. We've just read the story from the Gospel of Luke, wherein a woman afflicted with a bent back for the last 18 years, can you imagine? And who was only able to look at the ground, is healed by Jesus on the Sabbath day. Now, if I were working from one of my sermon templates, I might invite you to take some time putting yourself in the place of the disabled woman. What would her life have been like? How would others have treated her? How did she survive such a condition? And then I might have tried to make some meaning of the story for our time and place. The woman didn't ask for anything. She just happened to be near Jesus at the right time. Jesus faced the sacred moment, and so did the woman. Or, how should we interpret the response of the indignant religious authorities to the healing, who were angered and then some that Jesus had cured on the Sabbath? Or, what must it have been like for this woman to have Jesus not just bring her back to physical healing, but returning this woman to her legitimate membership in the community of Israel? But that's not the sermon I wrote. And I have temporarily set aside those outlines that I might have had. You see, since the beginning of this month, the beginning of August, I've been trying to find meaning around the work I have been honored and called to do with 2 very different groups of children who have come into my life and blessed me. You all know that a week or so ago, First Immanuel hosted a vacation Bible school for the children of this congregation. A group of loving adults helped with art projects, games, preparing meals, teaching songs, and storytellings. It was wonderful. We had such fun. Well worth every ounce of time and energy it takes to lead the children through an enriching experience. The group this year was largely the same group of children who attended VBS last year, but we all noticed, as the adults, that this year's experience was even better than last year, and perhaps that was because the children had been together last summer in VBS and in all those months in between here in this sanctuary and over in the Sodergren building in Sunday school. They were in the process of forming their own special community. Each afternoon, we saw the kids immediately comfortable in the space downstairs, heading straight to the playroom or engaging in one of the projects set out on the tables in the fellowship hall, eagerly awaiting to find out what the menu was for that night. Smiles and hugs all around. These children are clearly loved and cared for. Our parents are attentive and responsive, each one providing a safe and supportive environment while encouraging their children's age-appropriate independence. The children understand the boundaries of good behavior, readily accepted and any needed redirection, and enthusiastically entered into the silliness of our time together. The theme of our week together was Compassion Camp. We talked a lot about how compassion means that we should be attentive to others. We see another's hurt. We feel another's hurt, and then we act with compassion to ease another's hurt. The first night, Jennifer took us outside on a mini scavenger hunt, and we were exploring and having a good old time outside, and I managed to run through the rose bushes at the front of the church. Now, I scraped my leg, but I didn't notice that I happened to be gushing blood out of my leg.
Oh my God.
It was okay. I recovered. It was just a scrape. I didn't notice that bleeding right away, but the kids did. Oh my goodness, Pastor Christine, why you're bleeding? What happened? Does it hurt? Let me get you a rag. Let me get you a tissue. Do you need a Band-Aid? I mean, these kids were on it. An immediate, compassionate response and the desire to help where they could. Beautiful, beautiful children that will be in my heart forever. Loved by their families, the members of this church, and yeah, by me too, and cherished beyond all description by God. But I can't help but contrast that group of children and my experience with them in Vacation Bible School with my experience of the week prior. I was at Compass Camp. This is a secular program offered by Camp Lutherwood, which is located right outside of Eugene. Compass is designed for youth, ages about 11 to age 15, who have suffered from trauma of all kinds. The goal for the week is to explore the power of hope and healing through resiliency and preparedness. And in addition to the many classic camp activities, like swimming and campfire, Compass campers also have a chance to share and explore their feelings with others who have had similar experiences and with adults who are invested in and love these children. My job was to serve as camp chaplain, with my instructions to be fully present, carefully observe, deeply listen, and respond as appropriate. Easier said than done. These campers, 28 of them, will be in my prayers forever. They too are cherished beyond all description by the Holy One. They just didn't know it. Over the course of the time I spent with them, I came to adore each of them. But the needs of these campers contrasted with the kids attending Vacation Bible School in stark ways. About a third of the kids were dropped off by a Child Protective Services caseworker rather than a parent, a caretaker, or a foster parent. Some of the kids looked eager for the first activity, which happened to be cookies and lemonade, and a rousing game of Gaga Ball. Ask me about that later. But many of the children were visibly upset. Some were crying, and some were saying, "I don't want to be here." I was immensely grateful at that point that there were 22 adults to tend to the 28 children, not counting the kitchen crew. My first conversation was with 12-year-old Julie, and yes, I've changed the names of the children in here to preserve confidentiality. Julie was in tears, and I simply asked, "Would you like to take a walk with me around the camp so I can show you where things are?" Yeah, she'd love that. As we walked, Julie asked me if she could share her backstory That was her word, not mine. And when I said I would be honored to hear her story, she immediately told me that I didn't have to worry about my job as a mandatory reporter for the state of Oregon because I'm already in the system. I have a case file, and they know all about me. As we walked past the kitchen, she was amazed at the gleaming stainless steel kitchen equipment. And she said, "Oh, I wish I had a kitchen like that to cook in." She's 12. My mom doesn't fix us any food. The kitchen is always a mess, and the one who cooks all the food for my little brother and my sister is me. Staff was cautioned to watch carefully for another child who had a history of self-cutting. Her brother had committed suicide last year, weighing very heavily on her because she was the one that had discovered her brother's body. She too was 12. I noticed another child who wasn't eating. Now, Lutherwood's cook is really good, and her meals are delicious. But Callie refused a plate meal after meal after meal. As we talked, I asked if a cup of hot chocolate might taste good, and she nodded yes. I put 2 sugar packs into the cup with the Swiss Miss hot chocolate mix for a few extra calories. Callie sipped and smiled and chatted and then got up to use the restroom. When she came back, she told me that the liquid did not agree with her, and she had thrown it all up. A quick check of her records that we had been given told me her dad was in jail, her mom abused meth, and she was on her 3rd foster home in the last year. The staff had been cautioned to look for signs of bulimia with Callie, and that, beloveds, was day 1 at Camp Lutherwood. As we got to know each other a little bit better, 11-year-old Charlie came up to me and started to cry in anger and in frustration. "I hate this camp. I hate this camp." His face was red and twisted and swollen, and we sat down under a shady tree as he sobbed. "I thought I was coming to this camp for therapy. Therapy. I want therapy, and all I get to do here is play games and sing songs and swim and run around in the field and have a good time. How am I ever going to learn to be a kid if you don't start with the therapy?" And most heartbreakingly of all was the young lad who on the last day came up to me for a hug. "You are so cool," he said. And I started to cry immediately, of course. "You were really nice to me all week. I wish you were my grandma so I could live with you, because I bet you know how to bake cookies." Each of these precious children is just as painfully bent over as the woman that Jesus healed this morning. Love not given, care not received, neglect instead of attention and prudent guidance, despair from a worldview that seems to hold anything but promise, peace, and joy of life. These precious children of the heavenly Creator were not grieving a death. They were grieving life. A life so cruel that each one of these beloved children has been formed and has been bent over for the entirety of their short lives. Agonizingly bent over, with a view of nothing but the hard, dusty, unyielding ground. I know that none of the adults at camp, as much as our hearts let us, I know that none of us healed any of these children. We may not have healed anything in their bodies, their hearts, their souls, any part of their being. And I know none of what we did was permanent to any of those campers. But I do pray that for a moment, each child who attended felt the loving hand of our Redeemer Jesus on their backs, perhaps feedingly, just for a moment, giving them an encouragement to stand tall enough and with courage and hope, just a touch on someone's back. Russian-born American psychologist Yuri Bronfenbrenner, who spent his entire career studying human development, wrote, "Every child needs at least one adult who is irrationally crazy about him or her. Love, trust, acceptance, listening, guidance, appropriate boundaries for safety, and freedom to explore safely." That's what each child at camp was searching for. That's what every child deserves. And that's why, given the chance, I would bake as many cookies as necessary so that we would never, ever again see the bottom of the cookie tin. Amen.